Hi, my name is Kat, Board of Fair Librarian, and welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 25 books I would like to read in 2025. If you've seen my sort of preparing for the year type content, I guess, you might think, girl, you're making a lot of plans. Which, yes, and I know that I'm planning more that I am like realistically able to read. But these are not my biggest New Year's resolution when it comes to my reading is to sometimes remind myself that it's not that deep. And you know what? If I enjoy making a list and filming a video with 25 books that I would like to read, and if by the end of the year I have read none of them, that is fine because it's not that deep. So I'm just gonna make the video. I wanted to try and make it, what I've seen some people do is like do categories. It's like 5 categories and 5 books in each category, which I wanted to do, but then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write whatever books come to mind. What this list mostly is books that I don't want to forget that they exist, and also if there's ever a time where I don't know what I want to be reading, I'm overwhelmed with like all the options, I have a smaller list to go to and see if any of these is calling to me in the moment. So that is how I went with this list. There it is. So yeah, let's get started. So book number 1 is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. This is a historical fantasy about, at some point, a bunch of women in this community spontaneously turned into dragons. And so we follow a young woman who a couple of like female family members of hers have also changed into dragons. And like I've heard it's a symbol of like female rage in a very feminist book. So I'm quite interested. I've heard good things about Kelly Barnhill's books, so I'm excited to see what this brings. Then I have Every Exquisite Thing by Laura Steven. This is a YA thriller that is inspired by Victor Dorian Gray, from what I've heard. And I'm a little bit nervous about this. I'm like, this is not a 5-star prediction. Like, I think that I will enjoy my time with this, but I don't expect this to be a new favorite book. But I want to give it a try because even though I've never actually read A Picture of Dorian Gray, I do want to at some point. But just like the idea of, like I know generally what the story is about, and the idea I find really interesting. So I want to give it a try because like the original still feels a little bit intimidating to me. So let's start with the retelling. Then on number 3, I have The Great Library of Tomorrow by Rosalia Aguilar Salas. This is the first book in an epic fantasy series. It came out very recently, and it is by a Mexican author, and that sort of makes me hopeful that the world will be Latin American inspired, which is just something that we need more of. Like, I mean, European inspiration, like historically, that has dominated fantasy, and then now we're seeing a lot of like Asian inspired worlds. And I have like a little bit of African inspired. I would like more of that, but we all have a couple. But Latin America is like almost impossible to find. So I'm willing to read whatever has it or even has the potential of having it. So that's why this is on the TBR. Then number 4 is another historical fantasy, and that is The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wasteland by Sarah Brooks. This is about the Trans-Siberian Express, but sort of make it go to like a magical type landscape thing, which is very interesting. I've always wanted to travel with the Trans-Siberian Express or some train like it. So, this feels excited for that reason. Then number 5, I have Everyday Utopia by Kristen R. Godsey. This is a nonfiction which looks at different societies, civilizations, communities around the world and through history that have done things differently, and how sort of they, in certain aspects, could be called a utopia, or like certain elements of this thing is, like a bit of a utopian element in the culture, because of course a true utopia can't exist. But I think this will be very interesting, because we often think that the way we're used to doing things, and the way that we see around us is the only way to do things, which isn't true. So it's good to sort of seek out these other types of living and organizing society and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that this will be very interesting to sort of expand my mindset into what is possible, because I'm a bit of a dreamer, and I'm proud of that. So yeah, I would like to read this. Then the next one is actually also a little bit going on the same theme, also about sort of different ways of structuring society, but now like focusing on one specific idea, which is the Chinese idea of all under heaven, which is the title of the book. It's by Zhao Tingyang, which, as far as I understand, there is sort of these smaller communities that have their own structure, but they're also like under one main superstructure, which is then the heaven, in all under heaven. So yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Chinese word for it, because I'm going to butcher it, but it translates as all under heaven. And so yeah, I'm very interested in this. Yeah, and to learn more, because as you can hear, like my understanding is very like basic and not much. So yeah, I'm interested. Then I have The Athenian Murders by Jose Carlos Somoza. This was on my 24 books to read in 2024 as well, but I didn't manage to get to it, so I put it on here. This is... So we have a translator who found this ancient Greek text that is about someone on Plato's Academy, a student there, being murdered, and sort of trying to solve the murder, and some philosophy stuff and whatever. But then as he starts like translating and reading through this text, he realizes that he himself is featured in the text, which makes no sense, right? Because it's supposedly written more than 2,000 years before he lived. So what's up with that? And um, I believe it's very meta, and I'm so interested in that. I think I'm gonna love this book. I think it's gonna be a very me book. So yeah, I really hope that as a year I'm gonna get to it, because I've been wanting to read it for quite a while. I was actually at some point recommended to be my Latin teacher when I was in high school, because Elton like recommended to me specifically. He was a big reader, and when he talked about something about like history or some like cultural background, um, to do with one of the things that we were reading in Latin class, he would at the bottom of his handout he would have like 2 to 3 historical fiction recommendations that dealt with the thing that we talked about. So like he gave a lot of recommendations, but this one he gave like to me specifically, because he knew that I'm also a big reader, and he thought that I would like it. So I definitely want to give it a go. Then I have The Ides of April by Lindsay Davis to stick with like a murder mystery in ancient times. This is a murder mystery set in Rome. It's the first book in a series, and I hope I really like the series. There's a weird fascination with his historical mysteries set in ancient Rome. There's so many series. It's like weird, but you know what? I want to give them a try, and I'll start with this one. So yeah. Then next I have The Plague of Dove by Louise Erdrich. Um, this is a literary fiction about how the murder of a family of indigenous Americans sort of has ripple effects on the indigenous community that they were part of, for generations. And so we sort of see the aftermath of that, which, it sounds interesting. Sometimes it's no more than that. And then I have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I've been wanting to read for so long, but the book as well is so long, and that makes it intimidating. But it's a historic fantasy. This is the third one, about magic returning to England, um, set in the Regency period. So yeah, it sounds interesting. I've heard great things. I've heard his footnotes, which I love a good footnote in a book. So yeah, I'm really interested in reading it. In like 2024, like oddly, a lot of people that I know started rereading this book. Probably because like the new edition has come out. But so yeah, I'm very excited to finally read it myself and hopefully love it as much as everyone else has. Then I have Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan, which is the first book in the Celestial Kingdoms duology, which is an Asian-inspired fantasy. And I hope that this is going to be like a very like whimsical, beautiful, like I don't know how to describe it, but there is a certain thing that books like Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, or Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, or Unseelie by Ivelisse Hausman, those are like the first one that come to mind. There's a certain thing in the way they do world building, or in their world building, or the way to describe it. I don't know what it is, but I love it. And so I hope that this book is going to give me that as well, because I haven't really been reading any of those types of books in 2024, and I've missed them because I really love them. Like, they usually end up in my favorites, at least like my favorites of the month, if not of the year. So yeah, I wanna read more of this type of book. It's felt like a vibrancy and whimsy and colorfulness to the world building, that I don't always find, I guess, um, in a specific way. So I think that this could give me that. Fingers crossed. Then I have Nero by Con Iggulden, which is a historical fiction about the Roman Emperor. I haven't read Con Iggulden before, so we'll see how I like it. But I hope I will, because he has a lot of books that I'm interested in. So I hope that I like his writing, and then I've unlocked a lot of other great options to read. Then I have the posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas, which is a Brazilian classic that was also my 24 books read in 2024. But also didn't get to it. It is supposed to be quite meta in its narrative about this man who is dead, and after his death he tells his life story, and breaking the fourth wall a lot, stuff like that, which I think is going to be very interesting. So I would love to give it a try. Then on number 14, I have The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields, which is a fantasy romance that came out in 2024. And just, it seems fun. It seems very whimsical and cozy as well. So I'm hoping for that. I have heard some very mixed things on this book though, so we'll see how it goes. But I definitely hope that I will love this book. Then I have The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter, which I believe is one of her short story collections. She has a couple, and I believe that this is also short stories. And I've been wanting to try Angela Carter, so I just, I could have put another book on here by her, and I could swap this out. Basically, I want to read something by Angela Carter, but I put the Bloody Chamber on here because, as I said, I believe it's short stories, and I also would like to read more short stories in the year. So, because I don't know if I am a short story person, and I wanna know if I am or not. So yeah. Then I have The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole, which is a Gothic classic that I've been wanting to try for a while. I I had a history of European literature class in my first year of uni, and we talked about this book as well. I mean, very briefly, just briefly mentioning it. But yeah, the very little that I heard of it during a class made me want to read it, so I put it on here. Then I have The Mystery of the Yellow Room by Gaston Leroux. This might also have been, was it? No, it was not on my 24 in 2024, but it has been on a TBR, like a monthly TBR, in 2024. But this is a classic murder mystery. It's like a locked room mystery. Like in a classic. The thing is, this kind of intimidates me because I want to read it in French, which is the original language. And so, yeah, I'm a little bit scared for that because I don't read in French a whole lot. So, but we'll see how it goes. Then I have The Sapling Cage by Margaret Killjoy, which is a YA fantasy that came out last year, with like witches who are trans or something along those lines. Raf from the channel Raf Blue Text really made me excited to read this. He also gifted this for me. There was like a Secret Santa thing, and I picked my name, and so this was the book he gave to me. So yeah, I'm so excited to get to it. Probably in April, because I don't know why, but that book, it's giving April. I have no reason why. It's just, yeah. So that's probably when I'll get to it. Then I have 2 comics, because I've really been liking my comics in 2024. But I don't think either of these have English translations, so I'll use the original French title here. So I have La Pitié by Olive Perrou and Stefano Martino, which is about the Oracle of Delphi, which seems interesting to me. And then the other one is Oliver Page et le Tueur du Temps, by Steven Desberg, which this is a sort of sci-fi thing, and it's like robots and whatever. I actually, this is only 2 volumes, and I have both of them currently checked out from the library, so this one will be read very soon. Then on number 21, I have Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, or The Crimson Moth, depending on the QS UK thing. But this is a romantasy with a witch and a witch hunter, and so they're entering a sort of like a marriage, or like just courting each other. I don't know, but like sort of they start pretending to have a relationship. Not like they agree to pretend to the outside world, but like each of them is sort of trying to manipulate the other person into giving them information, or just like, and it turns into romance. The beginning sounds really toxic. I hope that's not going to be it, but yeah, I've heard great things about this. I've also heard that like it has a great plot outside of the romance, so yeah, I'm gonna hope for that. Then next I have Harpy's Flight by Megan Lindholm, which is the first book in the Windsingers trilogy. If you don't know who Megan Lindholm is, you're probably more familiar with her under her other pen name, which is Robin Hobb. But she's also written quite a few things under Megan Lindholm, and I want to give those a try. So yeah, I'm gonna try to read something. This is the same thing as with Angela Carter earlier, that I just want to read something by her. It doesn't necessarily have to be this book, but I just picked a book to put on here, but just anything by Megan Lindholm I would like to try. Then I have The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I've read the Broken Earth trilogy by her, which I probably need to reread, because I read it when I was 17, and I don't think that I fully like understood a lot of it as a 17-year-old. Like, I don't think that I necessarily like understand a whole ton of it now, but I think I'm gonna attempt more, or like even in a few years' time. I think I'm gonna appreciate some of it more. But so yeah, I've been wanting to try some other things, and so The 100,000 Kingdoms is one. Then I have This Poison Heart by Kailyn Bayron. I have been wanting to try something by Kailyn Bayron for quite a while. She's probably the author that I owned most books by her without ever having read something by her. So I want to try something that she has written, and This Poison Heart is kind of calling my name. Um, and people tell me that that is like a good place to start with her books. So I am gonna try this one. Um, so we have this like nature-based magic. It's a YA fantasy with like this garden and plant magic and whatever. It sounds fun and cool. So I'm gonna give it a try. And then the final book on this list is The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman, which is the first book in a very, very long series. I think it's like 9 books. And so it has sort of been intimidating me because of that reason. But I want to give it a try because it seems fun. I think I'm going to have like good vibes from it. So those are the books that I have on this list. So as I said, I can read any number of these and be totally fine with that. But just these are some books that are on my mind to read this year, and some books I'm very excited about and I would like to get to. So yeah, if you've read any of these, let me know, and also let me know what books are you excited to read in 2025. And I hope to see you again in the video. Bye.